and welcome to Open Dialogue. You're watching Ahlebait TV on Sky Channel 745. I'm your host for tonight, Fahima Mohammed, and as we are discussing different issues every week, I decided to do something slightly different for this week. And we're going to be talking to two young men who are very passionate about what they do, and what they do is quite inspirational. They are nasheed artists, and they have been performing for many years from a very, very young age. And without further ado, I would like to introduce you to my guest tonight, all the way from Canada. We have Abbas and Kumail Nanji. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam. How are you?
Very well, thank you. An absolute pleasure to have the both of you here tonight, and thank you so much for your time. We also have our scholar for tonight, Syed Razawi. Assalamu alaikum, Syed.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you for hosting.
You're welcome. The reason why when I discussed this with Brother Abbas at the beginning is because I was always wanting to do a topic about this, because I find it really fascinating and inspirational how two young male are actually doing this, not just for private homes and private gatherings, but now you've taken it on a bigger platform, inshallah, only growing with your nasheed, which is cultural music, it's religious music, and we don't really discuss the essence of it and how it actually impacts us, especially when we are practicing, when we are reciting, when we are trying to spread a message in a different way, in a different format. So I really would want to come to you first, Abbas and Kumail, basically, before I come to you, Syed, with regards to the religious side of things. How did you first start off reciting, and at what age? Because I know you're already only in your early 20s right now, and mashallah, you are already quite successful in what you do. So tell me the process slightly as to start off with.
Yeah, go ahead. So I would say around the age of 4 to 5 years old for both of us. We started quite young. I think that's largely attributed to the fact that both of our parents really pushed us into reciting. We were reciters themselves, so from a young age we'd go to house majlis programs with them and really get the opportunity to recite in small gatherings, and I think that's something that really sort of motivated us to go forward with it.
Yeah, and like Abbas said, I think it's it's just it was continuing, not only starting from a young age, but continuing from a young age. So once we started, our parents kept pushing us and motivating us to keep continuing, and that's alhamdulillah where we are today because of them, because they, continuously they were pushing us to get where we are right now. So alhamdulillah, it's a grateful spot to be in.
Yes, that's really amazing. And the fact that you started really young and had that influence from a young age does actually help. Syed, when it comes to nasheeds, do you know, could you explain a little bit about the history of it, if there is something that, when it comes to reciting, especially it's really well known when it comes to Muharram especially, and people are really taken away by the impact of the words, the way in which the reciters do actually recite, and it has a huge impact on youngsters nowadays, for them to be even maybe drawn more into understanding the story than a usual kind of way. What's your thoughts on how this is a growing kind of industry as well, and it's actually attracting more of the youth?
Yeah, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Art of expression is extremely important from Islamic point of view. And actually, if you look at Quran and the khutbahs of our Imams, khutbahs of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, they are all an example. If of expression was not important, Allah Ta'ala would not have used an unique way of expression of his message through Quran. And also, if you look at the khutbahs of Imam Ali, Nahjul Balagha, it is another example. And also in practice, we find that Prophet Muhammad and especially holy Imams, after the tragedy of Karbala, used to invite the poets and those who were artists to express the tragedy of Karbala in through their art. And in those, the only way possible was poetry, eloquent speeches, and in some cases expression through artwork like making banners and flags and this and that. When Islam started to spread around the world, it catched the local flavor into the expression of art. And there is no restriction in Islamic teachings for that. I mean, as long as it does not contradict with Islamic principles, it is okay to express the Islam art. A few years ago, I went to Trinidad and Tobago, and I was given 2 cassettes prepared by a local artist, and he had narrated the tragedy of Karbala from beginning to end. He had actually written rap poems expressing the tragedy of every single martyr in Karbala, and expressed it. And I brought that to Islamic Center of England and played it for the scholars. And there were ayats and mushtahids and some guest ayatollahs also had come from Iran and Iraq, and they were listening to this. After listening to the rap, the tragedy of Karbala in rap, one of the ayatollahs said, "It may not please our ears, but this is the method of tabligh in the area where this has been composed. So who are we to say this is not right because it doesn't please my ear? I'm from Middle East, and if it doesn't please my ears, who am I to say that this is not right?" If you look at the Indian subcontinent, one of the secrets of spread of madhab tashayyu and Islam is that Islam has gone through uh, artists, and they have managed to express tragedy of Karbala in poems and nohas and mersiyas. Mir Anis, Mir Dabir are the famous poets who are well known to the Indian subcontinent. And also, if you go to Bosnia, if you go to Latin America, if you go elsewhere, they have different ways of expressing the message. Within Iran, within Iraq, within Arab cultures, every single tribe has a different method. So the message is that as long as the art does not contradict with Islamic principles, then it's okay.
Thank you very much. That really did give us a real overview of a worldly view, actually, as to how Nasheed has taken on around the world in different ways. What is your personal experience, Abbas and Kumail, when it comes to you reciting, and what are the responses that you've received in your personal experience? I'll come to you first, Kumail.
Sorry, can you just repeat the question?
I said, what was your responses? How did the people respond to you when you first came about reciting publicly?
I think when I first started reciting publicly, I think it was like I used to recite from a young age, but I mostly started reciting du'as and that. So I think when it came to reciting nasheeds, murshid, it was a little bit different for me to get out of my comfort zone, as it was something I haven't really done before. So I think we've had, alhamdulillah, a great community at JCC with a lot of talented reciters here as well. So it's very easy to come into that niche and start reciting that, because everyone was so welcoming. You had other people to recite with and kind of gain experience from. So it was just an ongoing process, and I think it was a very supportive community.
That's
So
amazing. I remember talking to you earlier, Abbas, about this as well, and you were saying that you started off in, small community gatherings, and now you've taken it to a wider public with the YouTube. What made you do that? What is the kind of response that you're getting from that sort of platform now?
Yeah. So I think one of the biggest discussed when we first were thinking about going, on like a broader platform like YouTube was that what can we do to sort of make the greatest impact and inspiration, especially on the youth of our communities? Because, it's very easy for the youth to get swayed into things like being into haram music and that sort of thing. So like, how can we, as two reciters, promote Islam in a way that youth would enjoy, but also get connected to Islam in the same way? And so we thought that, there's a lot of cultural Urdu recitations typically that get released during Muharram especially. And, that's great to have a great audience for that. But I think especially living in the West, there's a lack of English recitations that are available. And, over the last few years, there have been like a lot of reciters that have come up with English recitations, but I feel like there's still a need for more recitations in English, especially by youth themselves, right? So we have like some older people or like middle-aged people that do this, but especially being youth, I feel like that's where we said, like, let's sort of focus on trying to get some English recitations out there and seeing what the response would be. So alhamdulillah, our first English Latmiya was released in Muharram, and we got quite a good response from that. So that really encouraged us to pursue this further and plan for future tracks in English.
That's really amazing, and it is very, very inspiring. And the fact that you're young yourself and you're trying to inspire your generation, the generation to come, this is what we need to hear. That's why I really was pleased for you to come on the show, because we need to give people like yourself a platform and to spread what you're doing, because you're not just spreading it through your actual recitation, through these nasheeds. You're doing it so much more so because you're creating an impact for people around your community and beyond. And you're quite proud of that, which is really, really amazing. I just want to also ask you too, which is really important. What is I know that it spreads the message of Islam and it gets a sort of a story across, but is there any other meaning and purpose for yourselves, especially when it comes to, the written work, when it comes to, I know, some you write, some you get other people's writing for you and you recite them, but do you pick and choose? It has to be something specific, or is it just like, a tune that you can recite to, a story that you can recite to, or, how does it work when it comes to, sort of reciters, behind the scenes when you're choosing to recite, and how does that have a meaning and an impact? Because I guess what I'm trying to say is like, someone who's reciting the story, for example, in Muharram, it can be done in so many different ways. What makes yours so different?
For sure. I think the story aspect, like, there's definitely a lot of planning that goes into it, like, for sure. We definitely try to plan sort of what topic we want to sort of address with the recitations, and then sort of plan, okay, what would be the best way to deliver this in terms of there's a lot of components of the recitation, whether the melody or the lyrics or the video that's being portrayed. So all those elements together is something that me and Kumail talk about a lot and sort of discuss how we're going to put those things together. So like River of Tears, for example, the one that we did in Muharram, is a good example of that.
Yeah, and I just wanted to add on to that. I think our, like Abbas mentioned previously, our main goal throughout doing all this is to really connect with the youth. So alhamdulillah, after we released our most recent River of Tears, we saw that the youth engagement was the most high. A lot of youth were actually listening to this track, and there was a group from mosque called Al-Attar, who one of the classes from the school actually recited that for a live program. So it was very humbling and it was very nice to see the kids interact with it, because that was our initial goal. So I think after seeing that and seeing the connection we made to the youth, we discussed that going forward we want to tackle the English sector, and try to make it a little bit easy for the youth to pick up and understand, so that when they recite it themselves and they memorize, they know what they're reciting, is what the end goal is. And like Abbas said as well, everything we do, we try to add a story, whether it be in the video, the actual lyrics or the tune.
The cover art.
Yeah, the cover art as well. Even our graphics as well. We just want everything to be correlated into one thing, which again tells a story. So alhamdulillah, it's been working so far. and we look forward to what else we can be doing in the future, inshallah.
Well, I've seen already myself, and a lot of work has gone into it just by looking at it visually, let alone anything behind the scenes. Thank you for that explanation so far. Syed, I want to come to you with something slightly different. For example, when there are weddings in London, for where we are in the UK, I'm talking from experience that I've seen myself. It is not mixed; it is men and women separate, and usually with the women. They may not play normal music, but they may play nasheeds in the background. And to that, they will be dancing. Now, is that allowed? What is the rulings on that?
Well, I mean, the rulings depend on culture to culture and how it is misused and abused. In some cultures, it cannot be stopped and prevented. I mean, abuse cannot be stopped and prevented, so the ulama and scholars have totally banned it. But in other cultures, I mean, like I've been to Lebanese celebration for 15th of Sha'ban, Lebanese celebration for Maulid al-Nabi, and they have a typical kind of dance which is called dabka, and
Yes.
the men go around in circle and sing songs and anashid, and at the same time they hold a handkerchief and keep going around in circle, and so it's a kind of dance. So ulama don't have any problem with that, as long as it's not a mixed gathering. And also in ladies' circle, obviously when there is there isn't any non-mahram there, it should be okay. The biggest problem nowadays is the mobile phones. And unfortunately, some private weddings events have gone on YouTube and social media without the permission of the bride and bridegroom. And that's why it is becoming a norm nowadays that when you get invited to weddings, they strictly ask not to film, and without the permission of but it can't be controlled. The devices are so minute and tiny, and within the crowd there are people who are not bothered about Islamic restrictions. All they are bothered to make some kind of publicity out of their activities, and they record these events secretly. So that has become an issue. If ladies are doing something within ladies with restrictions and nobody is reporting that, then it's fine.
But I'm more concerned about, obviously it is definitely not acceptable to be filming without permission, and especially when it's clearly male and female separately. But I'm more querying not the debka, but just general dancing, like how you would to English Western music, and if that's done in the same format for nasheeds in the background, because so-called religious families will be like, we're not playing music, we're playing nasheeds, but we are dancing like how they would to an English song. Is that okay?
Well, I mean, it depends also on dance to dance. I mean, if it's dirty dancing, then that's, of course, is not considered as halal and permissible, whether even if it's in same-sex circle. I mean, I have heard that especially at the weddings, some ladies try to copy these. Sorry to name those kind of lap dancing and this kind of thing within the ladies as well. I would say that is even haram within the ladies. But if it's a dance which is more like an exercise rather than a dirty dancing, then it should be okay.
Yeah, I know it's very difficult to define. I just wanted to make sure that that was also talked upon, because a lot of the times, we are using nasheeds in a respectful way. It is actually a meaning and purpose which is very much deeper. We are, when we're listening to it, we're hearing the names of our infallibles. We are hearing the names of our imams. So that's why I'm asking, the Syed with regards to dancing while listening to nasheeds, which continuously may say Ya Ali or, Hussain, Imam Hussain, and things like that. So that's why it's really important that we do keep clear and make it clear when it comes to these things. I also would like to ask the both of you, if you are ready. We do have obviously some time, but before we end, and I don't want to leave it till the end, I would love to hear for the two of you to actually recite for us live on TV. And it would be an absolute pleasure to have you both do this for us. And then inshallah also after that, tell us about your single and the upcoming sort of work that you're doing so that people can find you and hear your nasheeds afterwards. But if you would like to, kindly give us that, we would be really, really honored.
For sure. So, do you want us to do that now, or?
Yes.
Yeah. So basically, this is like I guess you could say it's a sneak peek. We have actually a new Latmiya coming out tomorrow, inshallah. So it's going to be at 11 a.m. EST. So we're going to give you guys a small preview of it, what to expect right now.
Brilliant. Go ahead when you're ready.
English, right?
Yeah. So it's about Bibi Fatima because Fatima is coming up as well. So inshallah.
Mm-hmm.
If the world stood against us, we'd stand against it and stand beside you. For our love is great, though our numbers are few, and you are Zahra.
Your anger is God's anger. Oh Zakira, then what does that say about your love? Were there no love but yours, it would be enough. The love of Allah.
We beg for your love. Without it we are without souls, living without love.
As beggars to you we will crawl, from the dark to your love.
For you we lament, fill our hearts with Fatima's love. We beg you, O Lord.
O Fatima, accept us as servants, for truly your servants are triumphant.
When the day comes, the day of our judgment, you glance at us even for a moment.
Let us be considered. Let us be considered servants of your Zahra, O Rose from heaven, O Rose from heaven.
Ahsan. MashaAllah, that was absolutely beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. And we are so grateful that we have the preview to your single coming out tomorrow. Thank you so much. That was live. Abbas, Ray, and Kumail, Nanji. Amazing, absolutely amazing. I wish you all the luck and all the blessings. And inshallah, tell us the single and the name again, please, and your YouTube channel.
Yeah, so the track name is Rose from Heaven, so we're talking about Bibi Fatima Zahra. And our YouTube channel is Servants of Zahra.
Brilliant. The other thing I want to go back to what you mentioned as well at the very beginning was the fact that you had the influence of your parents. And it's really important, I think we highlight this, that a lot of successful teenagers, a lot of successful young adults do start from a young age. And you solely have mentioned that your parents had a huge impact on your life decisions. So can you explain a little bit more about the influences around your life? Apart or even with your parents being there to support you and encourage you, and how has that made such a difference to your choices? Because were you actually that committed at the very beginning when you were actually persuaded or encouraged to actually recite?
Yeah, so I think the biggest thing, this is a lesson we learned, just a few years ago, is that we're happy that happened. Personally, myself, when I was younger, our parents were, I guess you could say at that time we felt like we were being forced to recite, and then it felt like, why am I doing this? Why do I have to do this? I don't think we saw the full value of that. But still, again, they still kept on motivating us and pushing us to keep doing it. And at that time, it's like, why are we doing this? And it all makes sense, a few years later, once you realize the goal you have in mind and why you're doing what you're doing. It's so rewarding to see that, just to keep going. And I think the biggest thing for the other youth out there who are reciting as well is that never stop, always have a goal in mind, and just keep pushing, because what you're doing is you're not doing for yourself, you're doing for Allah. And so I think it's really just rewarding to see the progress throughout the end, and just keep going.
Yeah, and to add on Kumail's point, I think one of the biggest things that like the role of our parents was huge, because instead of letting us just like do whatever we wanted on the weekends during Muharram, like they would encourage us and bring us to these programs, because they knew that we would find value in it and we would develop that passion. I think the passion is the whole thing, because we have that love and passion of Allah and the Ahlebait alayhi salam. It motivated us to serve them in some way, and because we had that that skill of being able to recite, we found that that's going to be our way of serving the Ahlebait and inspiring our community with our recitations, and that's sort of like our way of giving back to the community and serving the Ahlebait. So,
and it all leads back to our name services. It just gives us a chance every time when we think about what we're doing. It always humbles us down, to let us know that we are, at the end of the day, servants of Allah, servants of Zahra, the Ahlebait. And our main focus is that. So it gives us a chance to never lose focus and continuing doing whatever we wanted to do from the beginning.
Wow, that's very, very beautiful. I bet your parents are extremely proud. And listening to you speak, again, I think it's a lesson for everyone that's listening, that as parents, don't give up on your children and do be those influences and role models. And as children, even if you don't understand your parents' reasonings, do still persist and continue listening to them, because you may not see the full picture when you're young, but they can see it for you. So trust in your parents, trust in the elders who have the experience, and you are perfect examples of that. That's why I also wanted to speak to you about this, because I think a lot of the times we are, losing touch, thinking that parents don't have those kinds of views because they don't understand the current or the next generation, but actually they do a lot. And the thing is, even if they come from a different generation, they actually know much more because of the experience. And you two are sitting here as a perfect example and role model, because I think that parenting are failing nowadays, and especially when it comes to their children, they're too scared to upset them, they're too scared to make them feel uncomfortable or push them. And it's a healthy push, because at the end of the day, like you said, it was a meaning and a purpose that you realized maybe years later, but it was still so fulfilling. Syed, what are your thoughts on hearing these two very, very young, inspirational nasheed artists? They've sort of given us so much insight, whether it comes from their own inspiration, from their parenting, from the way in which they have been influenced and what they've given back in such a young age.
Yeah, I was thinking that we should not only concentrate on tragedy of Karbala and sad poetry and that kind of art. We should also, our youngsters sometimes complain that all we hear from Shiaism is crying, 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 and sad poetry. So at the time of happy occasions, try to present a different kind of poetry and nasheeds, which can be used as a regular item to listen by the youngsters, and you should encourage them. And also, please don't try to bring Arabic or Indian or Persian culture into the West. Try to do research on the ways of expressing the message through the local culture as well. And the reason Islam was successful in spreading, that it adopted the local halal culture For example, in English, there is a special kind of poetry which is called dirge, and dirge poetry is all especially designed for expressing the sorrow and grief. And I have listened to that, and the music associated with that, I don't think it is haram. Even the music associated with the dirge poetry can be used in expressing the tragedy of Karbala. And if you do that, you will be attracting the non-Muslims, the local non-Muslims, towards our culture and teachings as well. I'm not saying that totally abandon the Persian, Arabic, or Indian culture. Bring what can be adopted into the culture here, and also adopt something from the local culture so it can be presented for the future, because your future, your grandchildren will not be like you. I mean, they will be totally Canadian, they will be totally European or somewhere else. So think of their future from now and try to present and leave something behind. Like Mir Anis and Mir Dabir, Indian subcontinent was a Hindu country. When Arabs and Persians migrated, Muslims migrated to India, they transferred the art of expression into the local languages with the local culture, and that's how Islam survived. And the way Islam is going to survive in English and Western culture is by adopting some of the local values which do not contradict with Islam, like dirge music or dirge poetry and similar items.
Brilliant. I love that. That's amazing. You've got some really good advice there. So if you want to continue to, adapt some of the local and English, as well as do more research on a different variety of reciting, not necessarily when it comes to grief and sadness. So you've got a lot ahead of you, inshallah, and I only wish you well. Before we end the show, would you, any of you, both of you, each one of you would like to say some last words? It's gone by so quickly, but that's why I wanted you to recite earlier on. I'll start with you first, Abbas. Any last words before we end?
Yeah, so I mean, first of all, you once again for the opportunity to be here today. It really means a lot because, like you said, I feel like people one side of, especially reciters, and you guys hear us recite, but you don't really always get the opportunity to hear the inspiration and what we have, like our story, what we have to offer, and why we do what we do, and what our inspiration is, and that sort of thing. So thank you for giving us a platform to come out here and talk about that. That really means a lot. And yeah, inshallah, I just want to encourage everyone else out there who has young children, like, please try to get them involved in service to the Ahlebait in some way. It doesn't have to be necessarily reciting, but just one thing that we learned is that getting into something like this when you're young is so fundamental, because it paves the way for your entire future, and it really sets you up with that passion and that mindset that what your greater purpose is, which is to serve Allah and the Ahlebait. So that's like one thing which I would really hope to see more of within the youth, the Western society especially.
Absolutely lovely. Anything that you'd like to say, Kumail, before we end?
Yeah, Abbas hit on every point. It's the same thing. It's just really, firstly, thank you so much for having us. When Abbas told me that we're going to be on this call, we felt really honored, and it's really humbling to see that we can get on the show and just again discuss about our story, our vision, and our purpose. So it's really nice conversing with you both. Thank you so much, Syed, for your feedback as well. And yeah, it's same thing for me. It's just all the youth out there. The future is the youth, so it's just about upholding it, doing whatever you can, and inshallah, in a few years, all these youth are going to be taking over, and they'll be doing the same thing. They'll be inspiring the next generation. So we just have to keep that cycle going, so that the it never dies. So inshallah, once again, thank you so much.
No, thank you both. All the way from Canada, we have Abbas and Kumail, and thank you, Syed, again for always giving us amazing insights and knowledge and lots of takeaways. Thank you so much, dear viewers, for watching. It's been a really pleasurable show tonight, and I hope that it's given us a really good way of looking forward with some sort of hope, and especially for the youth to see such lovely, amazing, talented young men who are out there representing and spreading the message of the Ahlebait, and continuously will do so with also your support. So please, I will be sending out their links and their sort of work on my Facebook page and platform, where you can actually view all of their work, and please do sign up to their YouTube channel as well. Thank you very much for watching today. Inshallah, we will be back next week with another topic and guest. I hope you're all staying safe and well. Have a good evening. Take care. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.